As I said last week, the group stages delivered more unforgettable moments than what most people could expect. From Joko scoring one of the goals of the tournament and Philipp Lahm scoring the quickest World Cup opening goal of all time, to even the teams that didn't make it out of the group stages still bring some decent quality players. Like, for example, the Ivory Coast, who are the second best team at the African Cup of Nations. They brought in Didier Drogba, the Toure brothers, Kolo and Yaya, as well as goalkeeper Barry. Iran coming in with a 36-year-old all-time international top goal scorer in Ali Daei, and even Serbia and Montenegro bringing in Inter Milan midfielder and also captain Dejan Stankovic and much more. The list goes on. But unfortunately, those teams are gone. Now, all the drama and chaos awaits in the knockout stages. Next on Football Flashbacks. It's the business end of the 2006 World Cup in Germany. What was once 32 teams is now 16, and the best part, all of the contenders are still here on the road to the final on July the 9th. So now, every match for all the nations involved, every single match will feel like a final. Every match will feel like a matter between life and death. So sit back, turn up the volume, and enjoy as we'll be going through all what the knockout stages had to offer. From the round of 16 all the way to the final, with an unexpected twist at the end. But before we get into it, if you love nostalgia and want to escape everything wrong that's going on with modern football, please make sure you like and subscribe for more football flashbacks videos and even podcasts on the Eclipse Sports Network. So hit that like and subscribe button for more videos like this, or in fact for more content like this. And while you're doing that, let's get into it. So, we start in the round of 16 as hosts Germany take on Sweden. And just like their opening game against Costa Rica, the match took place at the Allianz Arena. It was the formidable force of Miroslav Klose and Lukas Podolski against the immovable object of Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Freddie Ljungberg. And guess what? Germany did deliver as they won 2-0 thanks to Lukas Podolski in front of a sold-out crowd, to the point where there was no spare seat anywhere in the stadium. And they'll be playing against the winner of either Argentina and Mexico in the Battle of the Americas. And as Rafael Marquez opened the scoring, it looked like Mexico would be going to the quarterfinals for the first time in 20 years. But however, an equalizer from Hernan Crespo and also a goal of the tournament contender from Maxi Rodríguez sent them through to yet their first quarterfinal since 1998. Meanwhile, England booked their second consecutive World Cup quarterfinal appearance through a long-range free-kick goal from, guess who? David Beckham. But media outlets like BBC and ITV criticized them for barely beating a team that was entering in their second ever World Cup. But however, they celebrated anyway, but they would know who would they be playing next, especially since later that day, Portugal will be playing Netherlands at the Fritz Walter Stadium in Nuremberg. I don't know what the stadium was called at the time, but it was played in Nuremberg for sure. And this game, going into this game, this was meant to be a game of pure, entertaining and beautiful European football display from both teams, as this was the repeat of the 2004 Euro semi-final in which Portugal won. But however, this game would be known for all the wrong reasons, as players from both sides clashed with each other and tackled each other so heavily on each other that the referee, who was Russian, I don't know his name, but he's Russian, issued a World Cup record of 16 yellow cards and 4 red cards, which is the most in FIFA World Cup history. It was so bad that even Cristiano Ronaldo was trying to show off his skills and feel like he did during the season at Manchester United last season. Now, because of all these tackles coming from the Netherlands, it was so bad that he was literally taken off the field. But luckily, he will be playing if Portugal do advance. And Portugal advance they did, as Manish's goal against the Netherlands, which slotted past the keeper, who I think was Stekelenburg or Van der Sar, was the only good thing about that game, as this match will forever be known as the Battle of Nuremberg. The following morning, Italy played against Australia. However, there was a problem though. a team that had the likes of Francesco Totti, Gennaro Gattuso, Alessandro Nesta, Andrea Pirlo, and Alessandro Del Piero were literally struggling to beat a nation that was entering its second World Cup, its first since 1974. However, it looked like the game would be going into extra time until close to the end of the match, where Fabio Grosso, who was literally entering the box, was literally fell to the ground, as some Australians even called it a blatant dive, but the referee didn't care. He anyways gave the penalty to Francesco Totti, who slotted it past Mark Schwarzer, killing Australia's dream. And Italy would then be playing the winner of Switzerland and Ukraine. Switzerland, going into this game, wanted to make it to the quarterfinals for the first time since hosting it in 1954. But instead, it ended 0-0 after 90 minutes and even after 120 minutes when it went to penalties. And Ukraine ended up prevailing, even though their star player and AC Milan's top scorer, Andriy Shevchenko, missed his penalty spot. However, the following day, though, we would get to see some Jogo Bonito samba football from Brazil, as they put 3 past Ghana, thanks to Adriano and Ronaldo Nazário and also José Roberto, which is, I think, for me, something that the current Brazil team can learn from, instead of talking nonsense and doing nothing on the pitch like they do nowadays. Because this Brazil team was a team that literally had respect for their opponents and had so much discipline in them that they even played some entertaining and fast and Jogo Bonito style football. Anyways, they would be playing the winners of Spain versus France, a game in which Zinedine Zidane came back, and with the help of Franck Ribéry and Patrick Vieira, the Bleu came from behind to put Spain in pain as the round of 16 came to a close. Now we enter the quarterfinals, where 8 teams remain, and this is where the pressure gets higher. We start with Germany versus Argentina, where the Argentinians threatened to end the host fairy tale run as Juan Roman Riquelme opened the scoring, but then Germany responded to keep the dream alive. It eventually went to penalties and Germany ended up winning, but celebrations were unfortunately cut short as Argentine substitute Leandro Cooper kicked Per Mertesacker from behind, which escalated into a brawl between players from both teams. And it ended up with Torsten Frings being suspended for the semi-final against the winner of Italy of Ukraine, a match in which the Azzurri won comfortably thanks to a masterclass from Luca Toni, as he scored 2 goals in the first and second half. The following day, Portugal played England in a repeat of the 2004 European Championships quarter-final, in which Manchester United teammates Ronaldo and Rooney played against one another. However, other than the fact that both teams were level going into extra time, one of the most infamous World Cup moments was created when Rooney made a foul on Ricardo Carvalho, stepping on his groin. Then afterwards, Ronaldo demanded the referee to give his Manchester United teammate a red card, in which Rooney then pushed Ronaldo, and then he was sent off seconds later. Then afterwards, one of the most infamous World Cup moments was created when Ronaldo winked at Rooney. Television footage zoomed in. And then without Rooney, England couldn't keep up with Portugal, especially in the shootout, as the Portuguese managed to reach the semi-finals for the first time since 1966. And they'll be playing the winner of either Brazil or France. And let me tell you this, okay? This was the biggest game of the year. It was not just Brazil versus France. This was France versus Jogo Bonito Brazil. Because imagine in 2006, you are sitting in front of your brand new Sony HD TV, watching Zinedine Zidane, Ronaldinho, Roberto Carlos, Thierry Henry, Ronaldo Nazário, etc., and many more superstars playing on the same pitch for different teams, all just for a place in the semi-finals. Forums like MySpace and MSN Messenger filled with comments like, who's going to win the match between France and Brazil, and the Zinedine Zidane and Ronaldinho debates getting peak. However, France ended up winning through Thierry Henry's goal. That completed the semi-final lineup in which all four teams remaining are from Europe. That is surprising. And one game stands between them and the final. We start with Italy versus Germany, which was a clash of tactical battles. Both were the top three in football history. It was Germany's aggressive attack versus Italy's rock-solid defense, to the point where even some Italian fans called it the Berlin Wall in relation to the literal Berlin Wall falling down in 1989. So, both teams tried trial and error against one another, and it looked like the game would be heading into penalty shootout, especially as the 120-minute mark came. But then something out of nowhere happened, as Andrea Pirlo then passed it to Fabio Grosso, who curled a shot past Arsenal keeper Jens Lehmann to make the Italian commentator scream so loud that he actually nearly lost his voice, as Italy opened the scoring. And then minutes later, Del Piero then sealed it to put Italy in the World Cup final for the first time since losing it on penalties 12 years ago in America. And then they would play either Portugal or France, where nothing really much happened other than two things. Number one, Cristiano Ronaldo met Zinedine Zidane, and number two, Ricardo Carvalho made a foul on Thierry Henry, which ended badly as Zinedine Zidane scored the penalty to send France into the final for the first time since 1998. But however, Portugal and Germany would eventually meet in the third place playoff, as it was a night to remember for the hosts, as Bastian Schweinsteiger scored 2 goals past keeper Ricardo. And even though Portugal scored back, it was too little too late, as the hosts, just like Italy in 1990, they received the bronze medal, which many Germans in years later called it, and what we call in German, einem Sommermärchen, which means summer miracle in German. But what's more important is the fact that the following day, on the 9th of July 2006, it was the FIFA World Cup final. Okay, 32 teams originally came into the tournament looking to become the world champions of the 2006 World Cup. But then it soon got halved to 16, and then 8, and then 4, and now just 2 teams remain in the biggest World Cup, the biggest match in football. 69,000 spectators at the Olympia Stadion in Berlin, and 32 million people watching on TV. It was France's first World Cup final since 1998, which they beat Brazil to win it in their own home backyard. And Italy were looking to win their first World Cup for the first time since 1982, which is now 24 years ago. This was especially significant for Zinedine Zidane, as this was his final ever game, not just for the French national team, but at the same time also in his entire footballing career. This was even more important than the World Cup 98 final and even the 2002 Champions League final, where he scored one of the greatest goals in football history against Bayer Leverkusen. But the question was, could this be a happy ending for one of the football's great maestros? Let's find out. As 7 minutes into the match, a foul was made on Florian Maludo, which Zinedine Zidane then scored a Panenka penalty. Whether or not it was in his intention for the goal to cross the bar, it literally required technique and timing for the ball to cross the bar, as Zinedine Zidane, Gianluigi Buffon went the wrong way as France opened the scoring. However, minutes later, Marco Materazzi then hit back as Italy then equalized and were level. And both teams tried trial and error to put the game to bed for either one of the teams, as Zinedine Zidane tried to recreate the goal he scored against Brazil 8 years ago. But unfortunately, that didn't work as the game went into extra time. However, the extra time period would not be known for the fact that both teams tried to score, even though they kept missing and the substitutions coming in, but rather for a moment that literally shocked football history, and changed Zinedine Zidane's career forever, because in the 114th minute, Zinedine Zidane and Marco Materazzi were just having a conversation as if they were friends at school. Zinedine Zidane asked for Materazzi's shirt, and then Materazzi then responded with, quote, "I'd rather take that to your sister," or something like that. This, however, made Zinedine Zidane so angry that he literally stepped back and headbutted Marco Materazzi in the chest. And then the world stopped. Everyone was shocked by what they had just watched. The worst part is that this was literally broadcasted on live TV in front of millions of people. Millions of French people who were hoping that this would be Zidane's last game, that his last game would end with a victory in the World Cup final. Instead, he would later be sent off, and he would be walking past the World Cup trophy in despair, never to play a professional match ever in his life again. And in the end, it went to a penalty shootout in which Italy scored all their penalties. However, Trezeguet missed a penalty and France did whatever they could. But even though they scored their next two penalties, it was too little too late, as Fabio Grosso, who was the semi-final hero against Germany, slotted a shot past keeper Fabian Barthez and scored the winning goal for Italy, as millions of Italians, especially at the Circus Maximus in Rome, jumped on their feet shouting "Goal!", which means goal in Italian, as Italy, for the first time since 1982, were officially world champions, as Fabio Cannavaro ended up lifting the trophy into the Berlin air. And with that, the 2006 World Cup came to an end. So much unforgettable moments. It was as if it was an all-star tournament, as I told you before. In fact, every nation brought their star players. It was as if it was an all-star tournament, especially France and Brazil, in which their match against each other was like literally an all-star match. But still, this World Cup was one of the greatest World Cups of all time, even though it ended with one of the most shocking moments in football history with the Zidane headbutt. But still, it was an unforgettable World Cup, and especially a World Cup never to be forgotten by Italy. However, while they were celebrating their World Cup victory as the players returned home, there was still some stuff going on with the domestic game, as the Calciopoli scandal was still happening. So let's just hope nothing serious happens to the clubs in Italy. But anyways, if you enjoyed this podcast, thank you for listening. And once again, if you're into football nostalgia and want to escape all the problems going on with modern football, especially with this World Cup, you can always like and subscribe for more content like this. And I will see you next time, as we will talk about the 2006-2007 club season, from the Champions League to the UEFA Cup to the Premier League and more, and even South American football. You'll be hearing all of that next time on Football Flashbacks. But for myself, Savage61, it's goodbye.